right. Thank you for joining us for episode 14 of Let Your Words Count. I am Gary Gant, sitting here with Ethan Merriweather. Sorry about that mic noise. We are here for episode 14, Let Your Words Count. Today we are dealing with complacency. As always, remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Please feel free to interact with us on the chat. We're trying to do the live chat here, active today while we're doing the recording. And don't forget to, in the comments, you can request a word that we deal with, and we will shout you out if we do pick that word for the next episode. So for today's word, complacency, for the definition, we have complacency refers to a sense of self-satisfaction, often coupled with a lack of awareness of potential dangers or the need for improvement. And it's the feeling of being content without striving for further growth or change. Let's read it again. Complacency refers to a sense of self-satisfaction, often coupled with a lack of awareness of potential dangers or the need for improvement. And it's the feeling of being content without striving for further growth or change. Ethan, do you want to read the etymology?
Yes.
Word history for us?
Yeah, of course. Of course. So the history and origin of the word complacency comes from the Latin word com, meaning with or together, and plaisir, meaning to please. It evolved to represent a feeling of being overly pleased or satisfied with one's current situation. Thought that was interesting.
It is.
I'm gonna give a little bit more historical verbiage with this as well. So historically, complacency has been linked to the idea of laziness or a lack of ambition. In the context of personal development, complacency can be an obstacle that prevents individuals from pursuing their true potential. It's often discussed in the context of overcoming stagnation and striving for continual improvement.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what does this word bring to mind? Do you feel like this is one that typically has a more negative or positive connotation, and why?
Kind of like what the history said. Definitely, I would lean more to the negative than the positive.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that from a historical, I would say when we use it, you're complacent. You're being complacent. It actually rolls off the tongue, kind of from a negative connotation in some type of way.
Right.
You know,
It's
whenever.
hard to think of it being used as a compliment, right?
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that. I wasn't trying to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, when you think about somebody being complacent, the word laziness always come to mind.
Yes, it
right?
does. Yeah.
And it's funny that you brought up the word about overly being pleased.
Yes.
So being overly pleased can give a sense of relaxation with that laziness or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the good part about complacency, I would say, when you go on vacation, when you don't go when you go on vacation, complacency should be the act that we pursue, because laziness is okay at that time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? When you go lay down on the beach, then you're complacent. I'm complacent at this time.
Right.
And I just want to feel the ocean. I want to feel the waves and the sand between my toes. I'm complacent, or I'm allowing this time for me to be lazy or whatnot.
And it almost feels like, in order to really make use of that positive aspect of the word, it almost makes me want to pick a different word, right? Because seriously, because true. That does resonate. Like, by the definition, if I'm on vacation, I should be satisfied and not seeking any further growth and be happy in the state that I'm in. But that makes me want to use a word more like relaxation or resting. You know what I mean? It's like, it seems like it shouldn't be a word used to indicate taking a deserved rest. You know what I mean? It almost feels like it's out of place. It fits the definition, but it feels like the word feels like it carries such a negative connotation. I wouldn't want to use that for a word while I'm on vacation. I'd almost feel like that's somebody trying to guilt me or trying to give like a a low key insult or jab saying, well, you're being complacent on vacation. Like, should I be working? You know what I mean? It makes me feel like you want to defend yourself from saying that. You know what I mean? Again, it fits the definition, but that's interesting.
Yeah. I, you know, one of the things, that's one of the hard words that I use. 'Cause once again, you kind of, it spills out of your mouth as being complacent.
Right.
I'm trying to find a way, like you said, is there a better word to use than that when it comes to a euphoric moment or whatnot? Like, you know what I mean? Like for instance, okay, let me take a step back. The negative side of complacency. Let's talk about the negative side of complacency. Right. Meaning that, are you complacent that someone is doing a task for you?
Interesting.
When you know that there is an opportunity for you to put your hands to it as well. Have we, children are a vehicle for complacency.
Say more. How do you
okay
mean?
So because when children are born, they rely and depend on something to nurture them. So there comes a sense of complacency for a child until that adult teaches that person that complacency is no longer the complacent. Unless I'm looking at it wrong. Here, let me talk through it a little bit further.
Okay.
So when you have a child is going to be complacent in their current status until they become the age of accountability. So once a person is responsible, like our last episode, once a person is accountable and they hit the sense of responsibility, then complacency ends up fading away in some type of way, because there becomes a point of ownership over processes, jobs, knowing that, hey, listen, nobody gonna wipe your butt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a child that gets to a certain age and they know, unless, like I said, I might be looking at it wrong.
No,
right?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm gonna say this point, like, and I'm gonna let you talk, right? So, when a child gets to an age of where they know that it's disgusting to use the bathroom or whatnot, then they should no longer be complacent in their current status. They should be able to pick up their hands and not allow someone else to do a disgusting task as to wipe their behind for them. You see what I'm saying? If a person is complacent in this moment and said, I can just lay back and chill and just let someone just wipe my behind all day long. No, there comes a point where you're going to have to do it yourself.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying?
For sure.
And that's kind of where I'm looking at from the side of the negative side of complacency.
I got you.
When a person is and that's kind of, I admit that's a little drastic or a little extreme, but I'm trying to paint a picture there.
No, that makes sense. I follow your example. I don't think it's drastic. I think it's just, it requires a qualifier, because at first when you were saying it, I'm thinking like, are you talking about like newborns? So, but that thought kind of helps us further define or clarify what exactly do we mean by complacency. I think that just, again, in kind of stepping through the definition, that example, again, makes me want to add to that definition that in order to be complacent, it has to be an inaction towards something that you are capable of doing.
That's it.
Right? You could seize the opportunity to do something for yourself or anybody else, part of your job, whatever. You could seize the opportunity to do something, and having the capability and the opportunity, you neglect to do so. So for a newborn who's not capable of caring for themselves, I wouldn't call that complacent for a newborn, because they can't do it. They need somebody to do it for them. As a child gets older, the parent should be trying to help that child realize, once they reach the right age, you could wipe yourself, you could blow your own nose, you could, shower and bathe yourself, things like that. And that's the parent's job, to kind of help instill that in the child, and hope that the child is open-minded to it, to kind of listen to those things and accept that responsibility. So that's where I think the battle against complacency starts, is as a child starts to approach that age of, and that's gonna come in gradients, right? A child might, can wipe themselves at an earlier age than they can cook something for themselves, right? So it has to be done in the stages as the parent watches the child grow, and finding out, when do I think that this child is now at a stage that they're capable of taking on this added responsibility, and let me teach them how to be responsible for that thing, right?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you brought that point up, because I think that does come to I think the processes that you're talking about,
Yes.
or not processes. And then if you want to call a stage a process, that's fine too. Because when you talk about a newborn child, and when that child gets to a certain age,
Right.
that if they're still in their comfort, when I think, and that's, I think the reason why we use complacency for a negative, I think we should use it more toward the negative aspect than the positive. I think it would get confusing.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if you overuse complacency for the positive, then there might be a danger in it.
Sure.
Sure. And the danger is, and I think you said this earlier, a person that's capable of doing something, but they shuck off that responsibility,
right,
because somebody else. And this is another thing. This is another good point. This is a very good word. Interesting word is enabling. Like
interesting.
Enabling.
Interesting.
Right? Enabling
somebody to be complacent.
Yeah. Are you see, that's very good. So are we enabling, not knowingly, are we inadvertently causing a situation or an event in someone's mind that they are, oh wow, dude, man.
It opens up another door,
Wow,
because
it does, yeah.
then it starts to branch into this area of, it's a matter of opinion. Are you of the opinion that the person that you're taking on this responsibility for, or doing work for, are you of the opinion that they can't do it, and that's why you're stepping in to do it instead, thereby enabling them? Or do you know they can, and you just don't want to go through the pain of asking them, or you don't want to, deal with the response, the negative pushback, whatever the case is? It, again, kind of comes back to, is it just your opinion that they can't do it? Do you know for a fact that they can't do it, or do you just want to do for them? You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's so, because I see this, right? So some of my family watches a show called 600-Pound Life, and almost every single time you have somebody that's dealing with one of those kind of weight issues, you have an enabler that's there with them.
Wow.
That enabler sometimes is the one that's buying them the food that they shouldn't be eating, preparing for them the food that they shouldn't be eating, because a lot of these people are not able to get around on their own. But I see a lot of a kind of symbiotic relationship where the enabler is helping that person that's overweight, morbidly obese, stay in or get worse. But sometimes that person that's doing the enabling needs to be needed, and that's why they're enabling that person. They need to feel that fulfillment, or that draw, or that I'm leaning on you, depending on you. They need to feel that so much that they become an enabler, not knowing that you are helping your loved one get closer to death. Right? It's deep. So this is getting into complacency unchecked, unrecognized, and why the definition, because it's kind of, even when I read the definition, like, dangers of complacency, I didn't really get a danger sense of it right away, but as we're kind of diving into it, I see where there's this potential for it to become something dangerous, right?
Yeah. So another, man, the dangers, because laziness, to me, like when you look at laziness, there's nothing, well, I can't say that, because sometimes laziness is good depending on the moment, right? Depending, like if you worked hard for a particular amount of time at your job, right? There is time for you can just lay around the house and just relax.
Right.
Okay. We let's give laziness the opportunity to be okay for that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right.
Right.
But once that's done, right? So let's use laziness in its truest form. So when a person is actually, they feel justified to be lazy or whatnot, then that's where laziness have a negative, a true negative characteristic, you know. So when
Go ahead.
so and correct me if I'm wrong if I said that wrong. So the thing is, the reason why I'm saying that is to go back to the dangers, and that's kind of what I wanted to get back. If you say danger, then or caution or something like that, I think that I think it's imperative for us to take a step back and say, okay, what do my actions actually look like, right? So, you know, when I start to think about when it says lack of ambition,
I saw that too. Yeah.
that's that. When a person have a lack of ambition, then to me, there's no produce or product in that. Like,
Right.
I don't know. Go
Well,
go ahead. Let me think about it. I'm gonna think about it a little bit
Well,
more.
I mean, it's one of the words in the definition, and you know, we kind of print up this template that we kind of look at to kind of make sure we dive into a word fully. And one of the words that it brings up there is a lack of growth.
Yeah.
Right. So in the comment that you were saying earlier, right, it brought that same feeling up. It's like, yes, if I've worked 60-hour work week, I deserve to, if I have a weekend, if I have some free time that I get after that, I deserve some time to relax. And I might joke and say, I'm going to be lazy today.
Yeah.
But
right.
it's the same thing where it's like the word feels like such a negative word that if I've worked a 60-hour work week and I'm taking a much deserved break, vacation, rest, or whatever, and again, I'm not saying we have to do this, but I'm saying that the urge in my mind, it's saying no, don't use lazy, don't use complacent in that context, because that's a rest that's been earned. That's a rest that's well deserved.
Yeah.
Whereas complacency and laziness implies something needs to be done or should be done or could be done and needs to be by you, and you are sitting there and neglecting or refusing to do that. Not something where I'm sitting there and I'm taking a well-deserved rest. Complacency and laziness implies you're resting when you shouldn't be. You haven't earned that rest yet. You haven't done enough. You haven't put enough work in to say, now I deserve a break, or now I deserve this time off. You know what I mean? So, yes, by the pure definition, it could be used for that, but my mind is immediately wanting to replace that with something that has a less negative, less judgy connotation to it, because if it's a deserved rest, I wouldn't want somebody saying lazy or complacent. That's like you're trying to say that you want me to still get up and do something, even though I've kind of earned this rest now. You know what I mean?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. No, that's really good, because I was thinking of, as you were saying that, when you said the word judgment, I think that from the outside looking at someone and telling someone that they're being complacent, I think we have to be wise when we start to interact with people, so they can realize that they're being complacent. Absolutely. I think that the conversation you can have with people to realize that there's a job to do, right, and you're the only one that can do it now, right? So you can't be lazy and allow time to go by while this task is not being done. I think that we have to, and that's where our judgment of a person's character in that process it can do two things. It can wake the person up or make the person very, very upset.
Awesome.
You see what I'm saying? It's
that's awesome. It's a great point.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I was saying that's a great point. Go ahead. I want to interrupt you.
No, you good. I really I'm welcoming this word a little bit more, right? Because now that we're looking at the definition of it, I realize, like, okay, I think we can squeeze some juice out this word a little bit, right?
For sure.
We've already talked about laziness. We already talked about the danger side of it. We talked about the lack of ambition.
Right.
We talked about the enabling someone. We're talking about that the person on the outside helping another person that's complacent, enabling that person, because the person that's doing the enabling needs that in order to feel
Yep.
You said it.
Yeah,
I'm just copying what
No, but I mean, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I think that what it is do we realize the manifold character, the manifold characters of complacency, and are we taking a step back to analyze and critique these words enough? I mean, listen, the Latin word of it is with, right? We said it. Calm means with, and plaisir means what? To please. So what's very interesting to me is with pleasure. It's an overwhelming exuberance of pleasure that you feel like, I don't have to do anything else. Yeah, but like you said, that depends on the context that you're using the word for.
For sure.
So do we need to replace complacency when it comes to a pleasure that's warranted to you, that's earned? I think we may need to replace the word, you know what I'm saying, and keep it more of a negative aspect. That's what I'm saying.
I got you.
So and I'm not telling in the audience,
Right.
I'm definitely not trying to tell you what to do, but I think that when you use the word complacency, let's use wisdom in the context of how we're using that word.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's kind of what I'm saying.
So, and when it says with pleasure, and I was looking at like another part of the definition, and it says, because it's saying I'm sitting here with pleasure, as if a job has been done when it hasn't. So elsewhere, it kind of describes the negative aspect of, implies a belief that someone has arrived or has reached a point of success. So it's that mindset that I've arrived. I'm sitting here with pleasure. I'm content to be here as I am, while something sitting there in front of me needs to be done. And you brought up another great aspect to it. Like, sometimes it can be I'm neglecting to do a job that only I can do or that I should be doing. But sometimes, because there's a definition of love that talks about, you doing for yourself to make sure you're not going to be a burden on others, and you trying to lighten the burden, lighten the load of somebody else that you care about. So I might be sitting there and saying, well, mom is going to do the dishes. I'm not going to worry about it. But love would dictate that, well, if you're here and you have an opportunity to, and mom is not there to do it, or mom is busy doing something else, as a show of love, you could get up and go and do that thing for her. Going back to the other word we had the other week of consideration too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? As a show of love, as a show of consideration, I'm not going to be complacent, because if I'm complacent, that work is going to fall on somebody else. So I prove that I'm a responsible, considerate adult or mature person by looking for opportunities to make somebody else's load lighter. And when we talk about, because again, it's like in the definition, it's a lack of growth. If I sit up here and don't take an action to get better, to improve, I'm going to miss an opportunity for myself to get better. And the way that, and we can maybe, kind of start to flip from the negative to the positive side after this, unless you have any other thoughts on it, but kind of looking at how complacency can actually look. Let's say you get something, and then let's say you get like a tax bill or a medical bill or something like that, and you put it to the side, I'll take care of it later. And a week passes, and you look at it, I'll take care of it later. That bill that might have been $50 is going to come back to you as $500 now, because it has late fees. It has all these things that have gotten tagged onto it because of neglect, because of a lack of attention. And then now what could have been a $50 thing that you could have settled is now ballooned into something bigger. Because what? Because you were complacent. You were content to sit there and act like you didn't have this notice, come to you that something needed to be done and needed your attention. And by you not giving attention to it, the situation got worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Man, that's awesome.
Yep.
When you were saying that, I think that there's a there's a value to light and darkness.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And when you see in the key of complacency in that regard, you can actually use the negative impact as a learning tool.
Perfect.
You know what I'm saying?
Perfect.
You can, how can we, and this is kind of a rhetorical question. It's about learning and growth. You said that earlier. It's about growth, right?
Right.
So what would be the exit strategy of complacency?
Perfect. Perfect segue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on it, or?
No, I'm thinking about. I'll let you go ahead.
So, and I think, and again, kind of one of the things we're talking about, with this podcast is if we find something that has a negative connotation, does it deserve a negative connotation? Is it being used correctly when it has a negative connotation? And is there a way to spin a negative into a positive, right? So what you just asked is the perfect setup for that. So how do we look at a situation where there's complacency, a negative thing, a neglectful thing, a lack of growth, a lack of ambition, whatever, and spin that into something positive? Recognizing the potential for growth, for improvement, for doing better. Knowing that that's always out there, you can proactively try to work against somebody being complacent by doing something like setting up a curriculum, set up a goal for yourself, set up if nothing else, maybe every 6 months, I'm going to take some class to learn some new skill that I don't have right now. And if it's in your job, challenge yourself to go out and learn some new aspect of your job, or go out and learn some other ancillary part of what you do, but have a schedule, have a plan to improve yourself, to seek out ways for you to get better, for you to learn more, for you to improve or gain a new skill, or again go out and find somebody else that's struggling with something and find a way to help them. So I think by proactivity you can willfully say, and again it's not so much spinning the word and its negative connotations into something positive. It's recognizing that complacency is kind of a negative thing that has consequences.
There you go.
And recognizing that, let me see what proactive things I can do to have positive experiences and not have to go that path of learning. I love that, man. That the harsh learning, the harsh lessons or whatever.
I love that. I love that. And as you was talking, I was thinking about the end result. What do you want the end result to look like?
Absolutely.
So kind of like if you saw something that you could do within your own power, right? But you shrug it off or whatnot for somebody else to do, right?
Perfect. Yep.
Yep. I think that love should always be that drive. To me, the exit strategy of complacency is it would always be love. You know what I'm saying? Because complacency is, to me, okay. Let's look at it like this. Complacency should be recognized by the individual. Right. And that individual that is complacent in that negative connotation hasn't come to their understanding, him or her understanding that complacency doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Somehow, something, some event, some experience allowed them to be in this mindset. And whatever allowed them to be in this mindset, whether it's life choices, circumstances, or whatever the case may be, they haven't figured it out that it is destructive and dangerous. So I like what you said about the aspects of producing some type of curriculum, or you might have to do it like a Mr. Miyagi style. You know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure.
There's ways to do things where you can trigger someone's. Actually, man, if you look in like the way the Lord Jesus talked, he did that quite a bit. If you think about it, man,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I don't ever look at the fishermen. When the Lord Jesus, when he went and saw the fishermen, chose fishermen, man, those guys are not complacent, man. I can't, at least during the hours of fishing, that's some hard work. That's some those are some rough cats, and people don't realize. I don't think we haven't took time enough to realize how gritty these individuals was. I think about the disciples as a motley crew. They're just straight up motley crew, right? But you can learn from those individuals, man. And so when you talk about teaching and when you and helping, especially when one teaches, two learns. We say that all the time, right? So a person that's a teacher, you are a service to someone else. That's not complacent.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
That's true.
So how can we use complacency as a learning tool to help develop people. And that's kind of what you were saying also, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and I think to kind of build on what you were saying, I don't know if I would say complacency is a learning tool, but the results
There
of
you go.
inaction
There
and
you go.
neglect, a phrase I love to use, catalyst,
Yeah.
right? The result of neglect and complacency will cause certain catalysts. It's just the result, right? The result of inaction. If it's the summertime and I choose to be complacent and not go out and cut my grass for a month, when I go out there to
Right.
do it, I'm gonna have a whole lot more. I'm gonna get a whole lot
Yes.
less grass cut for every pass that I do. A whole lot more bags I'm gonna have to bag up. I'm gonna have to have other weed treatments because I'm gonna have other weeds growing up there. Probably animals that have taken root there. So many other things results of your complacency build up, and then it produces further catalysts. It produces other challenges. If I just went out there and cut once a week, I wouldn't have had to go and do all these extra things now to get my lawn back in the shape that it should have been in the first place.
Yes.
So there's this again. It's a proactive mindset. You have hard lessons to learn when you neglect something.
Yes.
It usually comes back with some penalty for you not taking action or giving it attention when it was needed, and it's going to have more things you got to do to get it right back to
Yes.
where it should be if you care to have things in good working
Yeah.
order.
Yeah.
So as a way to avoid those catalysts, those hard lessons, those things in life and nature that tend to come back and dump more on you when you're not giving it the right attention, be mindful. Be mindful of what things need your attention. Be mindful of what things you need to be doing, and have some ambition to do that, if for no other reason than to eliminate the burden of your work and your responsibilities falling on somebody else. And if you're not that kind of considerate person and you're a selfish person, so as to not make it be more work for you once that time comes back. If you neglect it and you know you're going to have to be the one that goes back and corrects it eventually, it's going to be more work for you to try to course correct and recover lost time and effort and energy or whatever else has been the case. It's going to fall back on you anyway.
Man, that's powerful,
Yep.
Man, I really enjoyed this word,
For sure.
because I never thought about it as being overly pleased or whatnot.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? And the thing is I always, not always. That's a lie. Let me take that. Excuse me. But I was thinking about everything that we do and every word that we receive. There's always an action after those words are received. Like what can be the key takeaways for complacency,
For sure.
which you've already said. And I think that is the perfect opportunity for the audience to really evaluate complacency and say, am I exemplifying this type of behavior?
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And if you are exemplifying this behavior, don't wait for someone to give you goals. You get your own goals.
I love it.
And that's the key.
Hate being told. I should have did it myself.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
exactly.
Yep.
So that's the thing. And another thing is that's the challenge. The challenge is for us as human beings is that no different than what you said about cutting the grass and doing different things like that. There are going to be higher consequences just to get back to restoration. To restore whatever that you neglected back to the status to where you want.
Right.
That takes a lot of effort and a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And maintenance, because to me, I look at another word that can possibly go along with complacency is maintenance. Because if you are maintaining, that means that you're putting forth the effort in order for the consequences to never to show up.
Right.
We've been in automotive long enough to realize that when there's an issue that arise, a problem, you put containments in place, you put corrective actions in place. And one of the things that we focus on the most is what does your maintenance schedule look like? So the whole idea is putting schedules in place. And I'm not saying be like a straight up robot. But what I'm saying is start to freely think about what you want your results to look like and put things in place in order for them to be manifested.
That's the key.
You know what I mean?
That's the key.
It's interesting.
Have an idea of what kind of results you want. And I think too, again, if you're mindful, if you recognize that there is an opportunity for growth, for improvement, and you have the right mindset to say, I want to be better, I want to be growing, I want to be learning and improving and doing better today than I was yesterday, then also it says, you know, the saying, I think we talked about this even a couple podcast episodes ago, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right?
Yeah.
So be proactive, right? Knowing that the things that you are supposed to do, if you don't do them, it gets neglected, it causes more work for you or puts the work off on somebody else, or there's just opportunity sitting there. There's an opportunity to take a class and the class is free or the class is being offered, you know, whatever the case is, right? Look for opportunities, be proactive, go out there and find ways to improve yourself while you're also taking care of your responsibilities, right? There's no reason to sit there, and again, it's with pleasure. You're sitting there, you're pleased, you're satisfied, you're stuck, you're stagnant, and, you know, just you're good with things as they are, but you can be better. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? If there's an opportunity in front of you to do something better with yourself, to grow in a skill and knowledge or whatever, look for those opportunities and be proactive and take them, rather than sitting there and just being pleased with things being as they are, right?
Nice. Hey, another beautiful episode that I'm just constantly, you know, immersing myself with these words and these definitions, and I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. You know, it's interesting about letting your words count. Like really letting your words count is seeing the fruit from it.
For sure.
Like I really I'm starting to see more and more. I'm being more purposeful and intentional with the words.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And you know what's also so critical in my mind is that I see the results. I think I already said it, but I absolutely see there you go, fulfillment. It's the fulfillment that I have. So when we talk about insecurities and disciplines and all these things about gossip, you know what I mean? It's making me more cautious and aware of what. It's not about what I look like at the end.
Right.
It's what about what you're becoming, right? And that's the key. So,
I like that.
And most of the time we say that I don't want to be complacent because I don't want people to look at me. No, it's not about that. I think you have to get to the core. You have to get to the core. And I think that for my last words for this episode is really deep. Look deep inside. Lose yourself in the point where in words where you can really take a step back, evaluate, and you can really take those definitions and make actions with those. You know, you really have to set them goals, like Gary was saying, and like you said, no one's going to do anything for you. That's another thing. Society has this handout mentality that is not in my mind. I'm saying this, it is not the right process in putting things in place in order for you to be where you think you need to be. You have to hit the ground running yourself and establish goals and actions for yourself. You can do it, man. People will help you, but a lot of times I'll say this and I'm gonna shut up. I remember Chris Rock said this one time. He said that, I remember when I didn't have money. He said that, and if somebody remember the story, if I say it all wrong, I don't want to miss it. And Chris Rock, if you watching the show, if I say it, no, but what I'm saying, he said that, you know, it's funny when he was, and we had a car and the car stalled out. And he said that when he sat on the side of the road and he just had his hand out, people would just drive by. He said the very moment he started pushing his car, people stopped and started helping him push.
Interesting.
See, that's what complacency is.
Right.
Sometimes complacency is a person standing on the side of the road
Right.
and waiting for somebody to come and help them.
Love it.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But the very moment you take the initiative, to try to work out your problem. And that's one of my favorite lines in Apollo 13 when Ed Harris said, "Work the problem." I love that, man. Work the problem. That was like when I was watching Apollo 13, I had to do this class, and they used Apollo 13 as a problem solving tool.
Okay.
So we watched Apollo 13, and we had to pick out the containment. We had to pick out the root cause.
Interesting.
And we had to pick out the corrective actions.
Got you.
Everything that they did. And when he said work the problem, man, it's just like, man, he's talking about grasping the situation, slow down, grasp the situation. But if you're complacent, how do you develop such beautiful actions if you are lazy? You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't even know the potential. You said that earlier.
Right.
The potential that we have if we're acting and we're wanting people to do something for us or whatnot. Sure. You're not even utilizing the God-given ability within you, you know what I'm saying, to recognize that you are able to perform.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
It's
I'm
beautiful.
done with that.
It's beautiful.
No,
That's it, bro. I don't have anything else, man. That's
all right,
good.
man.
It's good.
Well, everyone, it was a beautiful show once again. Another word that I'm gonna apply to my life. You know what I'm saying, and to in a way to avoid complacency, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm done. You know,
That's it.
That's
Good.
it.
Great
Hey,
show.
everyone, please like, share, and subscribe. And we really hope you enjoy the episodes.
That's right. Thank you.